Hey there, Planet Poke Pals, it's me, DeoGenZ, here once again with Pokemon of the Week. This week, we take a look at one of my favorite terrors of the OU metagame. This monster is magnificent and has many ways to be raised. We're only going to take a look at the top 3 that entertain me, but there's plenty more to be had with this one, and that is Tyranitar. To take control of this tank, head on out to Route 15 in Black 2 and White 2 and look for the rustling patches of grass. That's where you'll find this guy. Its ability Sandstream works perfect in tandem with a Landros or a Terrakion set, because what Sandstream does is sets up a perfect sandstorm that will last the entire match unless another weather effect is layered over top of it like rain. Now this is one of 3 Pokemon that can do this infinite sandstorm for the match, so it's a very valuable trait to have, considering that Sandstorm not only does damage to those non-steel rock or ground, but it also boosts rock special defense, which, Tyranitar being partial rock, is important. Although this ability will always lend Tyranitar some souped up special defense, you have to be well aware of the super effectiveness of the 6 types, specifically fighting, that weaken Tyranitar considerably. If a Pokemon like this comes out onto the field and you don't possess a good counter move that you can launch in time to save Tar's ass, then pull it, and switch it out with something like a Psychic type. That's often how people will try to set up on you with a Tyranitar on your side. They'll try to retaliate with a fighting type, do something of a focus punch, and get set to hit whatever comes out next to try and absorb the blow, knowing that you most likely will switch. Well, if you switch to something like a Reuniclus, or if you want to keep it so your team won't be phased by Sandstorm, none of your members, switch out to a Metagross or a Bronzong, and they will only be hit 1 time effectively, or in the case of Reuniclus, 0.5 times effectively, and Tyranitar will be spared. As far as options for items go, I'm making it very broad with these sets today because any of these items really work, and there's multiple combinations you can do to get different Tyranitar sets completely, so I'm just letting you know Choice Band ups your attack by 50%, but you're locked into 1 move. Choice Scarf ups your speed by 50%, but also locks you into 1 move. And the Life Orb allows you to attack with any of your moves and get an increase in your attack power. 1.3 times stronger, for that matter. So you definitely get a bigger boost with the bands, the choices, but you're locked in. And being locked in is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does yield a different strategy entirely for this Tyranitar, in that you're not going to have it wreck the field like a sweeper. Tyranitar is perfectly capable of doing that, but if it's locked down to 1 move, and people catch on to you using only that 1 move, even if it's something like a Psychic type and you're stuck using Stone Edge, people are going to catch on and try and take advantage of that, so you'll want to switch back and forth your Tyranitar, let it do its damage, perhaps have it as a revenge killer. That's something I often see Tyranitars with sets in the metagame these days have, is Pursuit. It's not as strong as Crunch, but it's perfect for those Psychic or Ghost types that try to escape when you send this behemoth out onto the field. That's naturally one of the first things you want to do, is preserve the Psychic type that's undoubtedly a nasty sweeper that would sashimi your team otherwise. But they cannot escape with Pursuit. So it's something to consider. The reason I didn't include it in the main move set is for Tyranitar, he needs to have as maximum power as he can, which is why I went ahead and maxed out his effort values in physical attack, also gave him the Adamant Nature, which boosts naturally physical attack, diminishes special attack, but we've got a set later for those special attacking friends out there who favor that more than physical. Again, the meaning of showing you all these sets today is not to show concrete how I or Planet Poke will set up every Tyranitar we play with, but just how you can get some springboard ideas and know how versatile this Tyranitar can be. And that's really seen spectacularly just in this first offensive set with all the variants in moves you have. You've got Crunch, a dark type move, also can have the potential to weaken their defense. Stone Edge, okay, not the greatest accuracy, but a super effective rock type move against flying types, against fire types. It's going to be excellent, including the stab as well. Outrage, a 120 dragon type move, keep in mind that it will cause confusion after 2 turns. But if you want to retract your Tyranitar, do your damage, especially if you lock it in with Choice Band. Oh, good luck trying to stop this Tyranitar. It truly will be the Terrortar if you include Choice Bands and Outrage. But be aware, it's an egg move, so you won't be learning it outside of breeding it. So when I said you want to find this Pokemon on Route 15 in the rustling grass, you want to find it, catch it, and breed it with a dragon Pokemon. This way you can get Outrage. And on top of making this thing even more terrifying, you could include Dragon Dance, which will upgrade its speed. It's why I made a focus on maxing out its, what most would consider not grandiose, base stat of 61 speed. But it's because I want to outrun as much as possible. Terrortar is meant to cause terror in the hearts of all your foes. It doesn't matter what they do. Even if they want to attack you, you've still got a naturally good defensive system, special and offensive. But when it comes to these super effective weaknesses, I would be a little cautious, especially with fighting, because it's a quad 4 weakness. Definitely don't try and tango with those types. Just switch out when it seems right, and you should hold on to this terror for the entire match and do massive amounts of damage. For the Asaur set, I show that you can keep this thing on the field for a longer stretch of time, especially if you want it to be somewhat of a special defensive wall. Now, considering all the weaknesses, no, it's not going to be classified as a wall. It's a mixed wall. It's more of a, not even a wall, more of a bulky offensive Tyranitar that will be able to absorb some hits. I still recommend you don't mess around with fighting types thanks to the quad 4 effectiveness of them, but make sure you have a psychic type to switch out to on your side. Once you get rid of your opponent's Psychic Sweeper, it's time to present yours in a nice easy switch, being hit with a fighting type move intended for Tyranitar. I also wanted to show off some of the other options in attack, like Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, and Ice Punch. These are moves that have been added to its wonderful cachet, its collection of moves that range from offensive to supporter to special, which we'll see next. And that is only taught with the Black 2, White 2 tutors. Crunch, of course, a powerful stab dark type move. Pursuit, just wanted to show you that this is possible. And with Asaur, you want to do more of a spring surprise trap with this. You want people to think that when you send out this Tyranitar, it might be something of a Terrortar. It might be ready and getting revved up to wreck and rampage their team if they don't do something swiftly to switch. So if you send out Tyranitar when a Ghost or Psychic is on the field, and that's not guaranteed to happen every time. So think about what other things people would fear Tyranitar for. Well, for one, Earthquake. So if there's a Steel or an Electric type, maybe you can wager getting out on the field then, hoping that they switch, using Stealth Rocks to get your annoying hazards on the field, and also use Curse to increase defense and attack. So with Curse on your side, you don't have to worry that you made no investments into the defensive side of its EVs. Definitely split up speed and special defense. You're getting a natural boost, once again, let me remind you, from the Sandstream. So it's wonderful you have this Asaur backing itself up on multiple tiers. Not only does it have a masterful move pool, not only can it learn specific supporting moves that are vital for claiming victory on most metagame matches, but it also has the ability to keep boosting its power, and it doesn't go away even after Tyranitar is defeated. So this is not only a good thing, but it's a warning of sorts, because you need to, if you're going to take advantage of Tyranitar, somewhat build your team up around this weather effect, because if not, you're going to be taking damage in the same way that your opponent is every turn from Sandstorm from the non-resistant types out there. So do keep that in mind. If you're going to go with Tyranitar, you should make full investments in dealing with Sandstorm, or at least having a counterbalance like a Rain Dancer that comes around later in the game when Tyranitar's gone and you don't need Sandstorm anymore to boost its special defense. But I want to remind you that Landros and Terrakion go tremendously well with this Tyranitar. They get great boosts from it. They are aided tremendously by the setup that Tyranitar can do before, and if it can wreak havoc on some of your opponent's team, all the better. Which, with the power of this Asaur, it may be wall-ish, it may be bulky by nature by the way that we've set up the EVs, but include the curse, and even the fact that we max out our attack here. We may not have the adamant nature, but just the fact that we've maxed out EVs in attack, we're going to have a stupendous strike, especially when it's a stab of Pursuit or Stone Edge. And Pursuit, recall why we want the lesser of power moves. It's perfect to trap your opponent when they've got a Ghost or Psychic on the field. It's a perfect way to pwn them. Just launch a Pursuit. And for those of you who favor the special attack over physical, here is SPT Rex, a specially risen Tyranitar just for you, utilizing more of its amazing move pool. Yeah, I bet you didn't even know it could do all this amazingness, could you? Well, this thing truly is a terror, as you could see through these 3 sets. The main difference with this one is, of course, we're maxing out special attack. We're going to have a modest nature to benefit that, because although it has great vastness in its move pool for special attack, when we look at its natural attributes, it's not as high as physical attack, being 134 compared to the 95 of special attack. Still, it's powerful enough that when maxed out, it is a mighty force to be reckoned with. You'll note that I also kept more of the Asaur splitting of speed and special defense, and that's because you don't have as strong of physical offense. You know, ideally, if you want to be the most effective as a sweeper with Tyranitar, you would stay with the physically offensive set, because maxing out those EVs is, of course, going to give you more power with a higher base stat. But considering that, it's not going to have any hard times, especially when you're launching super effective moves on your opponent with a modest nature. It's going to have a blast with Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Flamethrower. And hey, if you're planning on taking out some of the pesky dragon types of the metagame like Dragonite, maybe you can equip Dragon Pulse and take your opponent by surprise when you launch that. Or Snarl. Snarl is not as effective as Dark Pulse in the power aspects. I think Dark Pulse is 80, Snarl might be 50 or 55, but once it's launched, if you're trying to demolish somebody's sweeper and you know what they have on the field is a special sweeper, not just an offensive one, otherwise Snarl will do you no good here, then Snarl will take away special attack each time it's launched, and it obviously will take special attack stats away from any Pokemon that it's used on, but I'm saying it's more advantageous to do it on a sweeper that you know is special. This way you can make your opponent send them back because you've diminished their special attack to the point that it's laughable, or they will just keep taking the Snarls like a champ until they take it to the grave. Choice Band is what I really favor for this set, just because it gives you that extra boost of power, gives you that super blast that will put you over the top for each of these special attacks. Yes, Tyranitar has the ability to learn Blizzard. Yes, it can learn Flamethrower or Fire Blast, and figure this, it can learn Thunder as well. But since it sets up its own weather situation and none of those will be advantageous to these elemental forces of special attack, I don't want to mess around. You know, it's not like having the sun out, even if that was the case, would make Fire Blast accuracy at 100%. It would only do that in the case of Thunder if it was a Rain Dance previously activated. But as we know, with Tyranitar's ability, Sandstream, as soon as it jumps on the field, any rain that had been activated will be negated. So there's no point in doing that. That's why I say stick with the more dependable accuracies, hit hard, go with your items. If you don't want to be locked down, then put on a Life Orb and enjoy this very versatile Pokemon in your metagame matches. Before we conclude today's Poke Lecture, I just want to mention one more Tyranitar set that is very interesting, and that's the Sub-Focus Punch set. I've seen this used on Smogon, and it seems like a very effective set to use, especially considering the stats that we've set up with Asaur. So if you rewind back in the video, see what I did with the EVs there. This may be a very effective maneuvering in the move set for you to use with Tyranitar, and that is have Substitute and have Focus Punch on there. Use a sub It'll take a while for your opponent to dwindle away your sub, especially if you send it out on the field encountering a psychic Pokemon, because more times than not, that poke will go back to its trainer, not having anything effective to attack Tyranitar with, nor wanting to be destroyed by whatever dark move you would launch on it, so it gives you a perfect time to set up the sub without even taking any damage. Once that's done, you can use Focus Punch, and it's too late. They're already going to be pwned. The problem is, if many people in the metagame are familiar with Tyranitar, which I would not be surprised if that was true, because it is such a patriarch of power, then they might predict this, and they may very well switch to something like a ghost type and taunt you even further, like, oh yeah, that's great, good, keep using those amazing physical moves that aren't even going to strike me. Watch, it doesn't matter. But if they don't see what's coming, if they don't know a Focus Punch subset is here, that Tyranitar can be very effective. So as you can tell, I could talk a ton more about this spectacular Pokemon, but there is only so much time in the day, and I've got more things to do. So, I'm DeoGenZ, reminding you to subscribe to Planet Poke. If you are a Pokemaniac like myself, and you'd love to go back in Nintendo's history, specifically on the GameCube, then come check out my channel. I'm doing a complete 100% walkthrough of Pokemon Coliseum right now, and let's just say that Tyranitar may appear in that series, may even be the star of the show on certain episodes. So tune in for that, and I will see you next week.
I trust things are going according to plan, Mirabee.
Oh, yes, indeed, Master Nazcore. Our plan is coming along in a lovely peachy keen way. We have already broken Duke in spirit. We can do as we please at the Coliseum without his meddling.